So Gjon that followed Mark, so his son, his biggest son. One of his first actions was to, let's say, to reconcile the families who were in blood feud in Mirdit. So one of his first actions, let's say, as a captain. Of course. Because by Kanun, the oral tradition of the Albanians, the Marku family was, let's say, the highest in the hierarchy of ruling, let's say, and every dispute, if it would not get a solution in the councils of elders, let's say, the last word would be from the leader of the Marku family. So this is how Mirdit was organized.
These interviews were facilitated by a good friend, local guide Gjovalin Marfana, to the far left. To his right is the older gentleman Dua Frok Gjeda, the son of Frok Gjet Vokri, a participant in the final battle between communists and freedom fighters in Mirdit, the Battle of Zepe. The gentleman second from the right is Drek Nikoli, whose family was persecuted by the Enver Hoxha regime. Finally, to the far right is Artan Lesh Gjomarku, a local historian directly descended from the Gjomarku family. Today they will answer questions about CIA support to the anti-communist resistance, about Albanian nationalists like Xavier Deva and Shaban Paluja, and about histories of Albanian nationalism immediately after World War II. The entire interview, unedited, is linked in the description, which is kind of interesting because it goes into more detail about the importance of the Gjomarku family and from where their influence originates.
So into the capital Tirana rides the Italian army, and soon a free assembly of Albanians offers the crown to King Victor Emmanuel. And when all the snipers have been combed out, Count Chano struts in to take charge. He takes a bow from the balcony, welcomed by the entire population.
In 1944, there was a conference held in Gjon, I believe, which communists from Albania and Yugoslavia agreed to unite Kosovo with Albania. I'm wondering what the anti-communists thought of that. Did they favor it? Or?
So Artan will take the lead on. So the relations, let's say, Albania, Kosovo, but let's say, if we go in more specifics, Mirdit and so the regions of Western Kosovo mostly have roots farther back in history. So. The conference of Bujan happened in the time that Gjon Marku, the son of Gjon, let's say. So we're talking about the young Mark. So he was, let's say, in the organization, the state organization of that time. He was the minister for public order, let's say, in the government of the time, when the conference happened. Okay, he was, let's say, one of the leaders of this anti-communist establishment, let's say, that was being formed in Albania. And to their consideration, of course, the Kosovo was part of what ethnic Albania is. So had also close relations with Xavier Deva, which I think will follow up in one of your questions.
That gjithë nacionalist, anticommunist,
and all nationalists and anti-communists from Kosovo. Kosovo and those who were mostly based in Prizren.
During the war, did Lazar Fundo ever help the anti-communists?
I'm not sure about, let's say, his relation to this topic. Or one of a researcher that has, let's say, has a book about this period of time, and in this book you'll find, let's say, connection of Lazar Fundo with his involvement.
The shops are over here,
So Shaban Paluja briefly led Bali Kombëtar.
Shaban Paluja për Koçkurë ka drejtu Ballin Kombëtar.
Can you tell me a little bit more about him, because I can't find sources on how specifically he died?
So the relations of, let's say, the anti-communists with the Bali Kontar were close, let's say. But just in the periods that Mithat Trashri was leading the party, let's say, Bali Kontar, and in the period that Shevchet Verlatsi was leading Bali Kontar. But the other moments we don't really have much information about what went on, so, or what the relation is.
During Shaban Palush's uprising, his men witnessed Serbian partisans burn dozens of Albanian villages, and I'm wondering what kind of massacres were being committed in 1945 by Yugoslav partisans against the Kosovoars.
One of the statements from Due is that during those massacres, let's say, 2,000 Kosovo Albanians were imprisoned, were captured by Serbian partisans, and were moved to Tivar, where they were assassinated, all of them.
Montenegro?
Montenegro, Tivar. Oh. So they were relocated and killed there. Of course, they made them walk from Kosovo till Tivar, and later, let's say, it was Nenue stating that it was a betrayal, let's say, or between Tito and Hoxha, so let's say a hidden pact of letting this massacre go. Because they were the people who were captured, even though might have been regular people, they were considered all as nationalists and anti-communists.
Did Xavier Deva ever have contact with the anti-communists in Mirdita after the war, or did anyone you ever know communicate with him?
So till the death of Mark Marku in 1946, he had close contacts, let's say, with Mark and those who followed Mark. But after Mark's death, there was no point, let's say, of communication between them.
Mark founded the Committee of the Mountains and died in, I believe, 1946 with the shootout with the Sigurimi. Does anyone know who betrayed him and where he's buried?
Take the lead. So the 13th of June 1946 in Prosek, which is a village in Mirdit, Mark was wounded, let's say, one of these confronts with the Sigurimi. One of his co-warriors was killed, but and the communists didn't realize which of who was Mark, and this is why he got wounded. Others that were with him, they took him and transported him back and went in the woods. When the communists were closing on their side, he killed him. So his body was, after the Sigurimi let's say, kept him, they brought him to Shpal, to the administrative. They wanted, let's say, to make an example of him. This is why they moved it from Mirdit, and from Mirdit they sent it to Shkodër. His body sent it to Shkodër, and later he says that they throw it to the river Kir. His body was thrown to the river Kir, so unfortunately he doesn't have a grave.
Can you describe Gjon Marku as the leader of the Mountain Committee after the two previous leaders had been shot by the Sigurimi? Due.
So,
Gjon Marku.
Good. So let's say 1944, Albania, let's say, Germans were getting out, the communists were coming, let's say, from southern Albania and closing up of northern territories. And in the Albanian history, there's much debate of this. This is an addition from me. There is much debate if this period is is to be considered a civil war in Albania between communists and anti-communists, or just, let's say, to be, let's say, to be considered as a normal expansion of the Albanian government to the northern Albanians. And I'm one of those who favor the civil war topic. And Ndua was explaining that Gjon Marku was one of the people who led, let's say, these battles from August to October 1944, with the communists trying to reach north and to enter Mirdit. So Ndua had previously, let's say, had battle experience against the communists. So which these small battles happened in Gzic, in Spal, but mostly near St. Paul. So for the dominance of who to be, let's say, to run the state. After the 26th of October, he went to Shkodër, and that's where they let's say, they divided their topics, their tasks to do. So Mark and Lesh had to lead the resistance here in Mirdit. And so Ndua left with his father, Gjon, till Italy, Rome. So he accompanied his father to Rome. So from there Ndua, let's say, after his brother was killed, his brothers were killed, let's say, took the lead on this committee, but from outside, not from inside of Albania. So. And from Rome, after his father died, he moved to the United States, I think. This is what his, let's say, brief history of him.
Okay. In April 1948, Marta and Prenda Tarazi were shot, and the communists used this as a reason to oppress Catholics in the region. Can you tell me a little bit about what life was like living in Mirdita at the time?
Terror.
Just in the village of Fan in those years, so Ndua is stating that what communists did throughout those years, killing people just in the village of Fan, the Ottoman invasion of Albania, and let's say small Serbian invasions or attacks in this area didn't do it. Let's say these mass killings. More than 30 people will just, let's say, gathered and killed without a trial, just in front of everybody, just to make an example. Throughout those years, so, and this was not the situation just for fun. This was basically for all Mirdit. And if you look at the facts, this is an addition from me. If you look at the facts about, let's say, regions during communism and the number of people killed per 1,000 inhabitants, in Albania, most of the regions there is 1 or 2 people, 3 most, killed for 1,000 inhabitants. Mirdit goes as 17 to 20 people per 1,000 killed by the communists, and this is just in the early days where they started to establish the regime in Albania, and trying to enter northern Albania and Mirdita especially.
The Mirdita Executive Committee was formed in 1949 and agreed to spread resistance into Kosovo, I believe. I'm wondering what they actually did in Kosovo and who they worked with.
Not much had been done, because at that time the borders between Albania, let's say, and Yugoslavia for the time, and of course Kosovo, because Kosovo was left on the other side, was really tight, and their operations were, let's say, kind of stuck here. Not much could be done there, because if you go through the history of Albania as well, 1948, 1949 is when Hoxha starts to cut the relations with the Yugoslavs and join being more pro-Russian, let's say, because at that time there was some, let's say, economic failures and stuff like this. Basically there was this Yugoslavian plan to make Albania the seventh Republic of Yugoslavia, so kind of, but it's a big story, so this is why the borders were tightened. So not much of activity that they were able to make. October 48, as the relation between two states were, let's say, somehow nearly cut off. 45 anti-communists originally from Mirdit and 3 from his family, 3 people from his family made a crossing in the Hasi region to Kosovo, because to flee, let's say, Albania, and they were captured because even though the two states didn't have any relations, the security of these two countries was still communicating and still acting, and as they crossed the border, all of them were captured and killed.
Can you tell me a little bit about the killing of Bartok Beba, and what the reason was for that?
So I think this question we might answer it in St. Paul, where I mentioned you before, and I think this side of the history we might go in more in details with our time there, because I think it's the proper place to commemorate it, because a lot of it happened near there. So.
Okay. The BKI Bloku Kombatar Independent.
You said it in Albanian. So.
Is that right?
Yep.
Was established in Italy in 1946. What other groups joined them, and what was their ultimate goal?
Bloku Kombatar was formed as a continuation, let's say, of Albanians' struggle for independence, let's say, from the anti-communists, let's say, struggle for Albanian independence. So.
Dhe si qëllim kishte unifikimin dhe bashkëpunimin e të gjitha forcave elitare shqiptare.
And its goal was to let's say, to gather and unify all the elite, let's say, forces and minds who could contribute to this free Albanian, ex-free Albanians.
Dihet Gjon Marku.
There is a close collaboration of Ndue, Gjon Marku, with
Ernest Kolici,
Shevchet Verlaci, who is another figure.
Veshanakut.
These are all political figures, let's say, anti-communist political figures. All those who Artan is mentioned.
Oroshit, Toreve, Antare.
All, let's say, the intellectuals and all influential people who had left, let's say, Albania, or who were living outside of Albania, and had a willing to do something about what was going on here.
Of the rebels that took part in these, the anti-communists, did any of them want to see Kosovo independent or as a part of Albania?
Gjithmonë,
always,
ka qenë motivi,
the goal was
I luftës për shqipni etnike,
for an ethnic Albania. So basically, Artan Shqipëria bashkë. So Albania together. I mean, not a unified Albania and its territories.
So I found interesting documents reading through old CIA files. They said the Bloku Kombatar refused to cooperate with the Free Albania National Committee, and they said that they should stop sending the BKI money because they wouldn't work for the National Committee.
Who wants to share a detail, let's say, about something about this? So let's say Mark, before his death, let's say, was hoping to have a close collaboration with the Americans. So we're going back in history with the Americans and the Brits.
Por me plot gojnë e kanë pre bes.
But he was, let's say,
Nuk kanë bashkëpunu me ta.
he was, let's say, he was left aside. They didn't support him, didn't cooperate with him. So
Kanë hik,
Never.
gjatë losë e kanë bo ata.
let's say, and he thinks this is a, let's say, a follow-up of what happened, what was agreed on the Tehran meeting of Stalin, Roosevelt, I think, and Churchill. So this is this lack of support and lack of, let's say,
I danë zonat e influencës,
where they
edhe sigurisht
they divided their zones of
man
influence, and Albania actually was with a question mark in one of Churchill history books. Is Albania is a question mark? Is the Iron Curtain, let's say?
por
Who would be communists, Democrats? And Albania was with a big question mark in the block of Churchill.
Serbit.
But
Armiku profesor
the Albanian people, Mark is going a bit out of topic. He's saying that the main troublemakers for the history of Albanians were always the Serbs. So let's say practically in every field, in every moment. So.
Capitan Gjon, Marco Gjoni, was working with Italy in the CIA at the time to send paratroopers. Were these the men at the Battle of Zepe?
Disa nga këta që kanë zbritur në Zep, ka qenë betejës Zepës, yes they were.
Bloku kombëtar independent.
Yes, they were, because the first operations were coordinated, let's say, by Bloku Kombëtar Independent.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Battle of Zepe?
Mund të tregoni thot pak më shumë tash thot kanë zbritur?
kanë ardhur me tjerë, po
So two of them are you still filming, right?
Yes, yes.
Two of the figures that, let's say, parachuted to Albania, Gjon and
Gjon edhe Numi Dyshi
and some
tjerë
some others.
nuk
Who their names, most of them, we don't know. You might find them in the documents, mostly.
Ky ka organizuar e dulën Oratisën.
They organized, let's say, the troops
Aty
or
ishte
the groups
ka
to
qenë
go in the mountain.
Pjetër Kadeli.
Peter Kadeli was also a member.
Po, ka qenë
Mirë, se sa.
një shkodron, por aty mani
për plasjen.
për plasja, se ishte dhëtori.
Okay. So it was December.
Sigurimi
Serviti ka qenë?
1950.
So it was December 1950,
Dhe të
and
1950.
let's say the security was closing on them, and they were somehow to take shelter in one of the caves. Let's say because it was winter, they needed protection.
Atë mani ka ra sigurimi ka ra.
And in this
Nerë,
place,
dhe i ka rrethu,
Sigurimi,
kanë
let's say,
forcat-
found them, tracked them, and found them.
Kanë ardhur pri Tirane,
And a lot of forces came from
Kuksi, këtë dhe kanë
Kukus,
rrethuar.
from Tirana, from Shkodër, and let's say it was a big operation against them.
Aty mani në vra katër
In that struggle, 4 people were killed.
katër nga Zhugja kile.
4 people
Katër burra.
from the village of
A
Gjuj.
plagosëron Gjon Gjinaj,
It was badly wounded.
e
Gjon Gjinaj.
kanë marrë në ata policia se kanë gjetë.
He was taken, let's say, from the to a house nearby, wounded in that state, and then it was covered in leaves of oak tree that was around, just to hide him from the communists who came, searched this place but didn't found him. Let's say in one of the moments was this guy from the Sigurimi, Haidar Tava, was killed, let's say, in a close battle, in a front-to-front battle with one of them.
Luftë e ashpër,
And later he was declared a national hero.
ka pas humje të mëdhaja,
There
vetëm
were a lot of people killed also from the Sigurimi, but they don't tell the numbers. They never did. So
në
There's
bajt.
many graves up at that partisan cemetery with later dates, late 1940s, early 50s. I would imagine a lot of them were killed by the anti-communists here, where Mixukoli is buried.
I think. I believe so, because they never officiated the numbers. They never gave the real numbers.
This cemetery,
What is that? It's near Tropoi, right?
I believe so.
Kjo duka sigura ju.
Fajme, është afro.
kjo ushtari pa njohtur.
Ashtu është ai pa jo, pa tropoj është.
Kim
Pa hyn tropoj. I think a lot of communists, let's say, not communists, but people who were working for the state at that time were killed in these battles and these struggles.
Kjo betejë e funit rezistent s'kam pas mo.
So this was, let's say, the last battle of the anti-communists, let's say, in Mirdit, let's say, the last struggle and after this, a lot followed. So the government practically took control of the whole area.
Can you describe a little bit just about how the battle progressed? It was 450 communists versus 9 men.
So basically, they during the night, the communists were, let's say, like took positions around the place, and in the early morning, they started, let's say, the fight. The first one to be killed was Frog Goldoda, who was, let's say, the guard, at the moment, let's say, the person who was taking a guard. It's a really steep place where they were located, so where the cave was located. So basically the whole day went, let's say, giving and taking, exchanging fire, let's say, during the whole day. It went, well, of course, it had small peaks, but basically from morning till when sun went down, I was constantly fighting, let's say, between them. After the struggle, let's say, the battle ended, they took a nearby villager and just killed him for no reason.
The communists?
The communists, of course, the communists.
Yes.
They just killed it for no reason, just because they didn't properly succeed to finish this battle. Just God went on the road and
just evil.
Yeah, just evil, pure evil. So let's say out of these 9, 4 people, let's say, survived this battle. 4 people survived, let's say, this battle.
And the leader of it, Gjon.
He's stating that after this battle, a lot of people around were arrested, let's say. Of course, it's another step of the madness of the regime, but
he was so Gjon Janai died in New York in 1977. And I believe some of his family think he was assassinated, but I haven't read anything else about that.
So Gjon Janai is from the village of Ndue. He was orphaned. He became, let's say, a really tough person, a really capable person, who was, let's say, for a lot of years, personal companion of Mark John Mark, together with Dod. It's a coincidence that his uncle is sharing a story. His uncle and Mark John Mark were sharing an office. So John Mark let's say he found them in the office and asked his son Mark, why have you taken Gjon Janai as your personal companion? Do you trust him? And Mark said, I trust him with my life. So he's sharing just this small story that his uncle witnessed, let's say, because he was in the office with Mark. I mean, we don't know it for sure. We've heard that he was killed, but we don't have real information or real data about it. So he's describing his character. Let's say he's stating that he was brave, he was proud person. But communists, of course, did what they did. So
everything I've read about him makes him seem like a hero.
Gjithçka thotë që kam lexuar për historinë e Gjonit, e bën duket e jepat përshkrimin e një njeriu të fortë dhe heroik.
Fortë heroik. Ja ka emën të shkëlqyeshëm.
A great name to live by. Also in Mirdit, so a great name among the populations.
Did American, British, Italian ever land like paratroopers to support these anti-communists, or was it only Albanians?
Për shembull ato grup.
They never heard of such facts. No, they were only Albanians. So. He's trying to remember something about one of the battles, but there were no, let's say, British or American agents with the paratroopers that landed in Albania. So.
And I guess the final question, I'm wondering what your thoughts are about modern American politics and what your message to the world is as people who've lived through communist red terror.
An extraordinary question. When the Communist Party was established in Albania. One of the main characters of this was Kemal Stafa, a young guy, a young communist from Shkodër. It was, let's say, founded with support of the Yugoslavs. So let's say the communists divided their tasks, and in an encounter with one of his uncles, Kemal Stafa told his uncle. They studied together in Shkodër, so, and they know each other. And he tells him that they founded the Communist Bolshevik Party, let's say. And you are a nephew to the capitans of Mirdit. You're educated, and we want to establish the Communist Party in Mirdit as well. Says that give me to see the program of this party. So my support is to the American to let's say to the American vision. So free property, free rent, not the Bolshevik nonsense that. And Kemal states to his uncle, if I'm still alive, let's say during the war or after, I'll kill you. And of course, communism, let's say, took over Albania. In democracy. And now the fun fact is that the sons of communists pretend to say that we're with the Americans today. And as a person that lived through communism and in democracy, after his uncle was in prison, he made most of his lives in prison. After he was released, he came and lived with his family. So he was in prison for 15 years, and later, when he went out, he came and lived with his family here in Gjon. He always would state that the Republicans are conservative and since with Eisenhower and Reagan and Bush, they are more serious and more. I mean, he's just making a statement, let's say, about the figures of the Republican Party.
Gjon Kennedy,
Except the death of John Kennedy. For the Democrats, he has zero consideration, let's say, or their politics.
Antoni Blinken kabra opozitën shqiptare.
I mean, if communism killed the opposition, communism killed the opposition, let's say, for 45, 50 years in Albania. The now Foreign Secretary Antony Blinken and the former ambassador to Albania, Joachim, it's his statement, killed, let's say, the Albanian opposition as well. So, I mean, it is in the relation with the former prime minister and former president of Albania, was leader of the Democratic Party here, who is declared a non-committal person to the U.S. And this followed a lot of inner incidents here with the Democrats, and he's one of the supporters of this guys.
Immoral.
Mos shkojmë kaq larg.
Jo, po.
Po se nuk e kanë fushë internet.
Jo, ta din immoral. Hajdut, vras,
the prime
gjitha i
minister
ka,
now. So
e unë nuk e kuptoj se Amerika
he
E legashli.
is,
bashkëpunon me ta.
one of the worst people
Se po flasim
to
ma mirë
have
lirisht.
governed Albania, let's say, in democracy, and he can't see the point of U.S. supporting him. I mean, because to be honest, with among the older generation,
Kjo është
this is the
politika
state
që
of mind. There is also still this concept that the big powers still can with their decisions they have a big influence on what goes in small states, and time to time, to be honest, it has. But I think with the new generations, we're gonna change something, but not much.
So a lot of the friends I went to high school with, acquaintances, not friends, they would call themselves socialists and communists. What should I tell them? What should I tell them?
So he read the
Ferri,
Divine Comedy from Dante Alighieri
Ferri,
and
Purgatori
hell,
e
purgatory
Parajsa.
and
Tashi,
heavens.
aty ka boni hingsh, rrath,
So
Ferjan, të
the
Dante,
traits
po.
of Dante,
Edhe aty në fund, Luciferi.
and in the end of hell is Lucifer, of course. In hell, those who killed, let's say,
I ka
killed their
dënue,
brothers,
i ka
or,
dënue.
killed,
Tash i
let's
vras
say, himself. So
Italia fashiste erdhe na pushtoi ne eka.
the fascists, Italian fascists, come then invade
Na
us.
nuk e kemi vlla, e kemi mik. Na
They
ka
are not
vlla.
brothers, but they are friends. Let's say,
Enver
but they killed
erdhe,
us.
erdhe Enver Hoxha,
Came Hoxha, the regime,
na vrau,
He killed us
vllau.
also. The brother, so he's the brother.
Pra,
He's
më
Albanian.
i keq se fashizmi e nazizmi komunizmi.
What communism did to Albania is worse than what the fascists or Nazis did to Albania. So basically, this is how to say to them, because communism is about killing your own, but
Yeah.
making
Worse to
your
kill your
own
brother.
suffer was that. I mean.
Måste köpa imorgon.
Please transmit to the socialists in the US my words.
Tell them.
That you'll have.
Du love it,
He just wants to share an opinion of his. Many
Persona.
thanks for you guys and your interest in these topics. From the bottom of his heart, he is thanking you for your interest in these topics, and especially for your deed and these events.
Ka histori të vet.
As every region has its own
Çdo
histories
në Shqipni.
in Albania or elsewhere.
Por çka ka histori mirdita, po të thellohen këta, thellohen,
But what
The
the
Gjon-
history of Mirdit is, let's say,
dhe janë mrekulli
you'll find
se për
wonders on his, let's say, starting from the fact that for 500 years of Ottoman invasion, we were, let's say, an autonomous area.
po me
And what the regime did with Mirdit was brutal and divided it and destroyed it, let's say.
6 pjesë.
So basically, Mirdit during communism had the same fate of Albania.
Me Shkodër
So
deri
if-
kus.
If Albania was in 1912 was divided among other Balkan states,
ta
so
shpërban.
ethnic Albanian territories, that once the communists stepped in, they reorganized Mirdit, and big parts of it was left to neighboring regions, so to be governed, let's say, and just a small what is today Mirdit was not entirely. Till 1974, even this region, Fan, was with Kokos, the neighboring region. It wasn't with Mirdit. So.
Edhe
And even with that, these oppressions of 500 years of Ottoman invasion, modern days, communism having his heel on Mirdit, Mirdit still managed to preserve certain elements, traditional elements, and to survive to those.
ka pas tradita të veçanta dhe hala i runderim se.
It had
Ju
unique
përshëndes
traditions and still preserves them today. And many thanks for your interest.
Thank you. It sounds like Texas.
It is. It kind of is.
Demokratik këtu në kanë
Oh, okay. He's the leader of the Democratic Party here.
Oh, really?
I mean, you know that in Albania, Democrats, it's Republican. And
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a weird
We
switch
switched.
a long time ago.
Ky ka qenë
2000.
ky ka
They
qenë oti
rebuilt.
se qunet djali.
Gjovalin.
O Gjovalin. Ky ka qenë me gur të dhenun.
Okay.
Për para.
The old grave was
E
with
komunizmi
with
e ka
stones.
shem, merë me men,
E kanë vominët.
merë me men, komunizmi e ka shem, e ka shua gur në prut.
So basically, the communists destroyed even his grave, so his upper parts, the stones, and they had to rebuild it in the 2000s, so later, when they had the chance.
Këtu kam vorët e mi unë.
And those are relatives of his family, so nephews to the Marku family. His father, Baba, how are you?
Kastra gjyshi.
Great
Gjyshi.
grandfather, grandfather, father,
Aja, Aja.
and two uncles. Monsignor.
Ti
He
Gjovalin.
is a priest and
Gjyshi hem,
fathers that serve our area. He's originally from Mirdit.
o
Was buried
O
here.
Gjovalin. Tëri jo, altani ka dhenë për pash me ditës, në lidhën e përzërës, gjyshi hem.
This is
Këto
what.
janë emrat e martirëve të Mirditës.
These are the names of the martyrs of Mirdit. One of group of martyrs.
Në përgjithësi të gjithë janë zhdu.
Most of them are vanished, let's say,
Nga periudha
killed,
1924
vanished from 44 till
deri në 49.
till 49. So
Ndërta,
among them,
shumë nga këta nuk kanë eshtra. Nuk
there is no
kanë
grave
varë.
to commemorate them.
Po pllaka memorialit është vënë në shpal për arsye se trupat e tyre diku këtu rrotull janë herë.
This plaque with their names is placed here in Spal because it is believed that their bodies were thrown around here, so during that time.
Memoriali është bë në çaj respekti për bashkëluftëtarët nga Fondacioni Sarajeti Kapitan Gjon Marku.
So the plaque was placed by the foundation that is led by.
Është rindërtuar sepse i pari ka qenë degradim e sipër.
It's a late rebuild because the old one was and hopefully there can be searches that can find some of the remains, let's say, of the bodies of some of them that might be buried around here.
Trupi i ndjerit Kapitan Gjon Marku
The body of the deceased Captain Gjon Marku.
mendohet të jetë fshet diku në territoret e Shpalit.
It is believed to be somewhere in the vicinity of down there of those pine trees down there.
Ashtu si edhe trupi i
Maybe you
mbjellur.
want to go a bit closer. As also the body of the other person. The people that were killed in this massacre that followed the death, the killing of Bardak Biba, some of their bodies are, some of the persons are buried in a single grave, which is here in the graveyard, and we'll have a chance to visit it to see.
Can you explain a little bit about the killing of Bardak Biba?
The killing of Bardak Biba happened in Chav Valmir, which is was on the old road that used to go through Mirdit. It's a few kilometers from here, actually. To just let's say, pre up to what follows. Spal, so the village in here, St. Paul in English, it was during after the 1920s. It was the main administrative center for the vice prefecture of Mirdit. So the northern Albania was divided into regions. The main region was Shkodër, the vice region of Mirdit, so the small region of Mirdit, it had his center here in St. Paul declared. So this is why the main, always the main road since antiquity times has been through this valley, through these steps. And Chav Valmir, where the killing happened, is let's say a passing point in the main road.
Komitetit Maleve.
Many believe that it was an encounter by chance, not let's say not an asked confrontation. It was just by chance that they met up in that road. Barlog was accompanied by two close, let's say, bodyguards that followed him. The gentleman named Vilman, and one of them was a close cousin to him.
Nuk mendoj se ka qenë ndjekje.
He doesn't believe that he was being followed, let's say, by the anti-communists. It was pure chance, let's say, that they encountered heaven. Because they had many chances, the Committee of the Mountains, of the anti-communists, they had many chances before that to even kill him, so, or to make an ambush and kill him. So they had many other occasions, but they never did it.
Këtë vrasje Partia e Punës, Partia Komuniste,
this killing, the Communist Party,
e ka përdorur për të nënshtruar,
use it to submit the region itself.
Të gjitha familjet me përbërje
mainly
antikommuniste.
The big families who had anti-communist elements, in the groups in the mountains or in different areas. Because this can be seen, it can be proven, because except the killings of the 17th of August of 1949, all the families
Antikomunistëve janë internuar dhe burgos.
All the families of anti-communist people who were in the mountains fighting, their families were taken into internment camps, southern Albania, or imprisoned. So,
Ku ndër internime janë dërgu gratë dhe fëmijë.
In concentration camps were sent kids and spent most of their life in prison.